Befeiliam Falcheriu dus a Chlesio Shiaght Laa. Mish Marilyn Crellin. I'm Marilyn Crellin. Hello and welcome to Shiaght Laa. In the programme this week, Claire and Shiaght and Shaw, Feilia Manannan, the Manannan Festival. Pip Rolfe of the Erin Arts Centre takes us through this year's programme. You're in Loughtan Books. We hear from Celia Bannister about the background to her newly published and highly entertaining book. But first, Kirkcaldy's Columb Killey celebration.
That's the Padja Columb Killey, the prayer of Columb Killey, St. Columba, the dove of the church. Over the years, it was very often clergymen who became interested in archaeology, old stories and customs associated with their parishes. One such was the Reverend John Killey, who was vicar of Kirkcaldy from 1891 to 1912, where the parish was dedicated to an Irish saint Culcabry, but the parish church itself was dedicated to Columb Killey. In 1912, the very year, in fact, in which the Reverend Killey moved on to become Archdeacon of Man and Rector of Kirkandras, he re-established the Laa Columb Killey, probably inspired by the reference to former celebrations held in the parish, as described in the book, published just a year before, Manx Reminiscences, Loughtan Manannan, by his friend Dr. John Clegg. John Clegg had died in 1908, and publication of his work, Manx Reminiscences, Loughtan Manannan, in 1911, had been arranged by the Reverend John Killey as a tribute to his late friend. The church tower of Kirkcaldy Parish Church is also dedicated to John Clegg. In re-establishing the parish celebration as Laa Columb Killey, rather than its being held on a particular date, it was held on a Thursday towards the end of June. In fact, tradition associates Columb Killey with a Thursday. However, this year the Laa Columb Killey is being held tomorrow, Friday the 24th of June, in Ballabeg. There'll be the parade to the field at 2:30 and the official opening at 2:45. And there'll be a produce show, handicrafts, sports, dancing, and of course the refreshments marquee, with a chance to buy produce in an auction at 7. And the evening finishes off with the Laa Columb Killey Ceilidh.
Tashin chittus tre na blina, tre nearest Nike jeg trefeeders quegjeg, to Feilia Manannan en ola cummel, son a hood smoo ons le Ellen en Furchan. She forsel le Ellen en Furchan, lurg der kionige en shanchiel hairslach ons Furchan, ons Nike jeg trefeeders nen jeg, hug puur der John Bethel, de hoshige Feilia Blenol. Curlesh Jinty Jane Fewed Surger ons Kjol Classicach, Jazz, Kjol and Tea by Magia to Tail, Bardacht, as drama dus Manannan. Ta sin a chláistin vai John Bethel ons na blintin seo hai, me chiawn sianachus le elen chan, as ye, me chiawn quirichiol mew sin streng Amadeus. Henk rechelia ons Manannan, me nudgen jory currit ons presoon sy'n agus eil. Hug bodgelin ingel, lietrimus etlen en tracti vai getlach, ac deacon aramak Fred Cubban yn ergedeg a heden, de taxi de churlesha dusho de ingel phone a bodgelin. As with so many other events, it wasn't possible to organise and hold the Manannan Festival in the last couple of years. However, Pip Rolfe of the Erin Arts Centre has brought a week-long programme of events together for this year, so we'll hear about that, but first he tells us about the difficulties involved in arranging this year's event.
It was March before we knew that we'd be able to hold a festival at all. So obviously a lot of people were already booked because they'd had no work for 2 years and audiences had nothing to go to for 2 years. So the levers got pulled pretty quickly. But we were lucky to have some names already on the books because I was potentially looking at a festival last year. And we were able to take advantage of a couple of great local artists, one of whom recorded an album here last year. So it's a nice piece of symmetry that we could start the festival with that. And then it was just a question of a hot telephone, really, and sing what we could get. And we had a couple of great recommendations from people who've played here in the past, sort of friends of the centre. So I wouldn't say it was smooth, but it was easier than I might have anticipated.
And it's going to run from the 27th of June through to the 2nd of July, so perhaps we can have a look at the programme and see who's involved this year.
Last year, I think it was last October, I remember it was freezing cold. Ruth Keggin, known to most Manx people, she's a fantastic singer, instrumentalist, teacher, et al. And her friend Rachel Hare, who's a Scottish harpist, came in here with their sound man, Adam, and recorded what is now their debut duo album, which is called Loughtan, which means glittering or shining. I believe it's a word associated with the Aurora Borealis as well.
Right.
So, like I said before, it's a nice piece of symmetry that they will open the festival with the launch of the album Loughtan.
And I see Ruth and Rachel, they're joined by Manx fiddle player Isla Collister as well.
Yeah, that's the first day.
And then the following night, Tuesday the 28th of June, you have a theatrical production, Mrs. Churchill, My Life with Winston.
We welcome Liz Grand back here. She's an incredible theatre performer with her one-woman show called My Life with Winston by Kit Hunter, and it's directed by Chris Yeager. There's a great quote in there, I think it's the Showtime magazine, that says, Winston Churchill, we've heard and seen it all, haven't we? Well, actually, no. This is a great piece of writing, a great piece of direction, and Les is a real, like I say, an incredibly strong performer. So apparently there will be questions answered of what happened behind the scenes in the Churchill home. So there you go.
Right, so that's Liz Grand on Tuesday evening, so it's on to Wednesday the 29th then.
Wednesday, another returnee, back by popular demand, Adam Westcott, who is a flamenco and classical guitar player. He was a protege of Manitas de Plata, which I think means little silver hands, who was a French-born gypsy guitarist who basically took Adam on quite late in Manitas's life as a protege. And Adam's a really thrilling performer, so we can expect traditional flamenco, but he's known to throw in things by Michael Jackson and Muse as well, so there's really something for everybody.
And then on Thursday, the 30th of June, from the 6 strings of Adam Westcott's guitar, it's strings of a rather different sort.
On the Thursday, we have the Columb string quartet. Now, the words thrilling and innovative are overused, I think. But they really are, both of these things. They're one of the top string quartets in the world at the moment on all fronts. They play the classical pieces, but they also like to collaborate with all the composers of the moment. So they'll be playing Bartók, Beethoven, Schumann for our event, but they also collaborate with contemporary composers like Anna Meredith and Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead. They've just worked with him. There's a great interpretation of one of their reworks of a Kate Bush tune as well on YouTube that you can have a look at. So they're really pushing on all fronts, but they're great players, and I'm really looking forward to that one.
Well, we're moving into July now with the concert on Friday the 1st.
The Friday is Jenna Buchanan Mason, following in the footsteps of her siblings who have all performed here in the past. Jenna was 19 and she's an absolute keyboard wizard, and we're just really, really looking forward to having her here. She'll be playing Bach, a Mozart sonata, a collection of Samuel Coleridge Taylor pieces, and 2 pieces by Liszt, amongst others. So really nice varied programme as well.
And so that brings us to the final concert then.
Closing the show on Saturday the 2nd of July, very excited about this, we've got Christine Collister and her band. Now Christine needs little introduction on the Isle of Man, but she's been playing for nearly 40 years, 23 albums released, and some incredible collaborations with some of the folk rock luminaries. She's played with Richard Thompson and Clive Gregson, as we all know. She's apparently embarked this year on an album about Manx folklore. Now, whether we'll be getting a sneak preview of that, I don't know. But, so yeah, her and her band will close the show on the 2nd. And that's it. But it's a nice bill.
And it's a very varied bill as well. The all-important thing is, of course, how people can get tickets.
You can get tickets through the Erin Arts Centre Ticket Source site online, and obviously here at the box office during office hours. And anything available, any tickets left available will be available on the door. But probably the easiest way is to go online, and if you're uneasy about doing that, give us a ring, come down and get them in person. We don't take bookings over the phone anymore, just because we had various complications with that. But if you can't manage with a computer, we'll make it easy for you somehow.
Mm-hmm. And you still have this policy of supporting under 18s with an incredible offer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's £2 for under 18s for all events. So it's just about encouraging people to come here and see live music and live art. If you believe that watching and participating in live music and live art is beneficial, like we do, it's great to get people involved and hooked as soon as possible, isn't it?
Well, Pip Rolfe, go to my head. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Pip Rolfe of the Erin Arts Centre, which will be presenting those 6 concerts in the Manannan Festival from Monday the 27th of June through to Saturday the 2nd of July. We'll remind you of the Thursday, Friday and Saturday concerts again next time. Tickets for Ruth Kegan and Rachel Hare with Isla Collister on Monday the 27th, the play Mrs. Churchill, My Life with Winston, performed by Liz Grand on Tuesday the 28th, Wednesday the 29th's concert with Adam Westcott, and the closing concert on Saturday the 2nd of July with Christine Collister are all priced at £17. The Thursday the 30th concert with the Columb Quartet and the concert by Jenna Buchanan Mason on Friday the 1st of July are priced at £22. However, for those under 18, as Pip Rolfe mentioned, there's that great opportunity with just £2 for each concert. Rys Cust of Loughtan, tan bunnin y declior yn Loughtan, a feons machel. As glachad mewn cawr och, she colophon an enemy colega, cumma as ear enna Murray Loughtan. Tamarain jane a lior yn clawateg a colocht, machian cushion vannon. Tanuchtas Sarah Goodwin's grey, de denkad shoga ciawn Domenic, erin de rau feishtech rodaniach, as vi giri gedden tulje vis. Smooney mae fasien yn ach Mary, as fe uri ronsacher de edden mach, viech slaieller o'n yes as an airsoch edden mach, as viech he imadolen in son de beek lioon mach iawn cwsh. Te fur Jane the Simonel Yeek Sarah Goodwins as a sheja and fur photograph George Hobbs, eracht arach gewannen, Ye na tramen lectrach. Not all of the books published by Mackle-based Loughtan Books have been about Manx subjects. We heard from John Cannon last time about the rather colourful but dubious character of Alfred James Curfey, whom he dubbed the Manx Cad, and who was of Manx descent but actually only ever spent a year or two here in the island. Another new publication from Loughtan Books brings us the early years of a couple who subsequently became very well known here in the island. It's a richly entertaining book, and its series of fascinating characters have been drawn by the author Celia Bannister.
A whole generation of catering students will have known your husband Stan from his days at the Isle of Man College of Further Education. But this takes the story a lot further back, right to the beginnings. So how did you come to write the book in the first place?
Well, in the first place, the script I wrote in 1984 or something like that. And then due to circumstances, in those days you used to send it away to a publisher, but in those days something happened and I couldn't, and I just stuck it away in a cupboard. And it wasn't until I got together with my new partner that he looked at it, and he'd had a book published, and he said, I think this is quite good. So he took it to his daughters, and they said, great. So they typed it out, and they proofread it, and then, of course, it went to the publishers. They liked it, and that was the reason why it came out in the first place.
And it tells many stories, and it really shows the fantastic slog that you had in those early days.
Yes, of course, and in those days it was very, very different, because the village pub was in the hub of the village. Everybody came to the pub. The homing society had the meetings there, the cricket club, you name it, and they were there. And we also had, behind the pub, we had a Crown Green bowling green, and of course that's why we survived, because we had coach parties, and if it rained all summer it didn't matter, because they still came, and they had the darts and domino matches instead. So we existed. Yes, and another thing too was that people were very different. Your customers were characters, people in their own right that made you laugh or cry, just depends. But also, there was no swearing. And in the 13 years we were there, only ever did somebody use the F word. And that was 2 people, and both of them apologised profusely when I pulled them up, because they didn't realise I was there. And now you walk into a pub and everybody's effing and blinding, aren't they, all the time. So, yes, so it was very, very different. But we enjoyed it. It's very nice to be your own boss, you know, when you've been bossed about by somebody else. It's very nice. And if we made a profit, it was ours, and if we made losses, it was ours. It was our responsibility.
The stories that you tell in the book, as you say, are very much about the characters, and that gives them a universal appeal wherever they're set.
Yes, of course it does. And as I say, they were very funny. And of course they had their own dialect in that village, because we were one of 6 villages on the banks of the River Wyre. That went, the Isle of Man boat used to sail into Fleetwood, didn't it? All those years ago. And then you crossed on a little ferry boat to Knott End. And then there was Knott End, Preesall, Stolmine, Pilling, Out Rawcliffe and Hambleton. And each little village had their own pub. So we were very lucky in the fact that we could at least go have darts and domino matches and go away for those. So you had your pub busy at least once a week with a dart match or a bowling match or whatever it was. Yes, it was completely and utterly different. And the thing was that my family had lived in that Priesall village. They'd lived there for generations. So I knew everybody in the village, and I was related to most. And this was the next village on, so of course I knew lots of people there to start with. And at one time my father had been the organist at the parish church there, so that did give us an advantage. I mean, you know, we were, as I say, we were very well known before we even went in there. And of course Stan, well, he's a man of his own. And you were talking about the students. We came over to the Isle of Man in 1973 because they started the brand new college and a brand new department, and he'd just finished his time at the catering college. Well, Huddersfield he went to, Huddersfield, it's a university now, I think, university, but it was a college then. And he came over, and he was absolutely thrilled to bits with it. And and he said, it's, you know, it's something, they've never done this before. And he taught the licence trade and dining room service. So he was in charge of the students in the dining room when it was open to the public. And also he had to teach the licence trade, that was all the licensees, to pass an exam for the Brewers Guild. So they were very reluctant to start with, you know, teaching you, was it your grandma to suck eggs? But after half an hour of the first one, they loved it. Mind you, he did give them a few samples with different beers. But yes, students loved him. But he was very strict, but fair. That's what they all said. And they did some wonderful, wonderful exams. The pass rate, you know, they were up with distinctions and all sorts. And that was in the paper too, that was in Banks' paper, about how well those students had done. And it was great because every time we went out for a meal, there was one of these students there. So we got the best out of the kitchen and the waiting and everything. Yes.
Mm. And now the book has been published. As you say, it actually dates back, the manuscript, to the 1980s.
Yes.
You finally got it published. So how did you make the arrangements for that?
Well, I met Sarah Goodwins, who is one of the publishers. We met her. Actually, we were on the tram, I think, going into Ramsey. We met her. And she knew my partner, Dennis, because she'd read his books, and she's in the Poetry Society, as he is too. And he was telling her about this, and she said, I'd like to read it. And so she did, and that's how it came published in the end.
Celia Bannister, author of I Never Wanted a Pub, bringing together a wonderful collection of characters and their antics, and the downs and ups of her life with her husband Stan in running a pub on the Fylde. It also gives an interesting view of ways of life which have changed so much over the years. Celia Bannister's I Never Wanted a Pub is available now, published by Loughtan Books at £9.95. As les shen, tashin chit dus jera Shiaght Laa and Shiaght Laa. Fiona McCardle will be here with the final programme in this present series of Shiaght Laa next Thursday at 6. But that's it for this week. So from me, Michelle Nish Rome, Marilyn Crellin, sledding you.